You've noticed it too, right? How inflation is increasing the cost of your groceries. But did you realize the role that climate change is playing in all of this? Because climate change is actually having a huge impact on food prices worldwide. So today we're looking at how extreme weather is affecting your grocery bill and what individuals and policymakers can do about it. Let's get started. Now, we all know climate change is heating up the planet and causing extreme weather events. But here's something you may not realize. These extreme weather events are also driving temporary spikes in food prices. Let's think about that for a sec. Extreme weather events make it much harder to grow crops. It's hard for a farmer to grow anything when you have to worry about fires, floods, droughts, you name it. And that means fewer tomatoes, fewer grains, and this one I find particularly sad, less olive oil. And of course, when there's less of something, but people still want the same amount of it, well, you know what happens. Prices go up. So the sad reality of climate change is that it's not just affecting the weather, it's also hurting us in our wallets. In 2024, global temperatures broke records, rising 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels for the first time, driving an increase in extreme weather events. Now, a groundbreaking study by the Barcelona Supercomputing Centre, in coordination with the European Central Bank and other institutions, found that these extreme weather events had a huge impact on food production and ultimately supermarket prices. Take rice in Japan, for example. After their hottest summer ever, prices jumped by 48%. And it's not just rice. Vegetables, coffee, chocolate, and yes, even olive oil are fast becoming luxuries instead of everyday essentials. Let's break it down with some real-life illustrations, because this isn't just happening in one place, it's a global phenomenon. Here are some recent examples of food price shocks associated with climate events. In the UK, prices for potatoes shot up by 22% after extreme winter rainfall, which scientists said was made 10 times more likely because of climate change. The price of vegetables in California, where wildfires have been a real issue this year, spiked 80% in 2022 after a historic drought. Olive oil prices in Europe temporarily spiked by 50% after back-to-back droughts in Spain and Italy, which produce 40% of the world's olive oil. Cocoa prices soared by 300% after heatwaves hit Ghana and Ivory Coast, where 60% of the world's cocoa is grown. And Robusta coffee prices doubled after record-breaking heat in Vietnam and drought in Brazil. What's shocking is that many of these weather events were so extreme they completely shattered historical records, something scientists said was made more likely by climate change. And because the production of foods like olive oil and cocoa are concentrated in certain parts of the world, extreme weather events in these regions can cause extreme price volatility.
Studies show that around a third of food price volatility here in the euro area is caused by extreme weather events overseas. As climate change continues and we see a much greater frequency and intensity of these extreme events, we're likely to see much greater impacts on food prices here in Europe from events that happen overseas.
But food price volatility doesn't just affect your wallet. It ripples through societies in ways you might not expect. Let's start with food security. When food prices rise, those on low incomes are hit the hardest, and this often includes young people.
Young people generally have lower income, and that means that food's a much higher share of their income than it is for older people. So when we talk about these food price spikes, it's the young that also get affected far more by these events.
Now you might say, so what? There's still lots of cheap food out there, right? But let's be honest, cheap food is often less healthy. And when money is tight, fresh fruits and vegetables are often the first to be cut from shopping lists. And unfortunately, diets lacking proper nutrition can lead to long-term health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and even malnutrition.
Diet matters a lot for health. And in fact, dietary diseases are one of the biggest causes, not just of mortality, but of chronic illness. And that means if we risk having more of these events and more of these food price spikes, you could see long-term impacts on health.
But it's not just about health. Food price volatility stemming from climate change also makes it harder for central banks to keep prices stable. And here's another thing to think about. Food price spikes caused by extreme weather events is increasingly becoming a political issue. If you look back through history, there are so many examples where rising food prices spark political unrest and social upheaval. And it's not just a thing of the past. High inflation is having an impact on elections in today's democracies too. So what can we do about it? Well, first, we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The less we warm the planet, the more we shield ourselves from the worst effects of climate change. On an individual level, we can all play our part by reducing our own personal carbon footprints.
There are 3 things we can do that will really help our carbon footprint. One is fly less, the second is eat less meat, and the third thing is to walk, bike, or use public transport more. Those are the things that will really affect our carbon footprint.
Another thing you can do is the next time you're in a supermarket, be conscious of your choices. For example, try and buy things that are in season instead of something that is out of season but was grown in a heated greenhouse, or food that was shipped halfway across the globe. But of course, it's not all on you as an individual.
Governments have a really important role to play in setting in place the right regulatory framework to really encourage the transition to net zero carbon. They have a role in supporting and encouraging investment in renewable energy. They have a good role in encouraging sufficient grid connections, which are really important for that. Also setting examples and expectations for companies that maybe companies themselves cannot do just by themselves.
So we've talked a lot about risks, about what you can do and what policymakers can do, but let's take a moment to breathe. Because there are grounds for optimism too. As you know, many people across the world, especially young people who are going to be the most affected by climate change, are demanding climate action and pushing governments towards greener policies. We can see this in Europe, where the EU is investing billions into sustainable agriculture. The world of finance is also responding to climate change, with European banks making strong progress in managing climate and nature-related risks. And we're also making huge strides towards renewable energy, which is so much cleaner compared to using fossil fuels. In fact, we might need to change how we think of extreme weather events altogether.
While it's easy to dismiss these heat waves and these droughts and floods as were often termed as natural disasters, they're not really natural anymore. The more and more we have human-caused climate change, the more and more you really should start labelling these events as man-made disasters.
So in other words, we have agency. We can't control the climate overnight, but we can control the human activity which is affecting our weather. And what about you? Have you noticed prices for foods from climate-affected areas rising? Is it coffee, chocolate, or something else? And what choices have you made to reduce your carbon footprint? Let us know in the comments. And if this video helped you understand what's happening, please hit subscribe. We'd love to earn your subscription and help us connect the dots on the biggest financial challenges of our world, one story at a time. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.